call to order the hybrid virtual Pasco County Board of County Commission meeting of June 8th, 2021. At this time, please silence all electronic devices and mute your microphones. Please rise for the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance.
O merciful Creator, your hand is open wide to satisfy the needs of every living creature. Make us thankful for your loving providence and grant that we, remembering the account that we must one day give, may be faithful stewards of your good gifts. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Here.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Here.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Here.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Here.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Here.
My screen.
With Commissioner Fitzpatrick being online today, we will have all the voting will be done by roll call vote. Now's the time for public comment. Citizens were given an opportunity to comment on any item coming before the board during this session. The board also takes public comment on items to come forward in a future board agenda and to businesses under their purview. Due to COVID-19, operations to safeguard the well-being and safety of our citizens and staff, today's public comment will be handled as follows. First, we will take public comment from those persons who are here in person. This includes a public comment kiosk if it is necessary due to the overflow, or if someone shows up and prefers to speak to the kiosk and it hasn't closed yet. Next, we will take public comment from those who are pre-registered for WebEx link and are currently on queue. Finally, we will read into the record public comments and documents, PowerPoints, or videos that have been identified by members of the public to be read out loud, played at the meeting, or received and filed. This new format does not waive the request that when you address the board, comments not directed personally toward any commissioner or team member, but rather directed to the issues. This provides virtual respect between the board members and the public. For WebEx and persons, kiosks, participants, after stating your name and address for the clerk, the timer will be activated and start a countdown. After 2 minutes, one beep will sound and letting you know that you have 1 minute remaining. After the time is up, 2 beeps will sound indicating 3 minutes are up and that you should finish your comments. WebEx participants will be disconnected when their time is up, and kiosk participants will be asked to step away from the kiosks. Okay. Do we have anyone to speak in person today? Madam Clerk?
The list I have is for no one to speak in person. It's just individuals here to speak on regular agenda items.
Okay, so we'll move on to WebEx.
I have 4 people pre-registered, but I have one that has connected, Mr. John Wilder. Mr. Wilder, if you could state your name and address for the record, please. Mr. Wilder?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes,
Yes.
we can hear you. Thank you.
Yes, my name is John Wilder. I reside at 9828 San Mateo Way in the Westport subdivision of District 5. I'm also the president of the Westport Boat Club, and I'm here on behalf of our firefighters.
You may proceed.
We are a boating community that live and enjoy all the amenities that the area provides. However, we're challenged with the access into our subdivision. We would like to request that the commission include Westport in any upcoming dredging proposals that include Gulf Harbors, Hudson, or any coastal community in the county. I've lived here for more than 20 years, and our channels have never been dredged in that time frame. At this point, they are so bad that at low tide, we have 1 to 1.5 feet of water throughout the channel, and in the winter months, less than 6 inches in some locations. Many of our residents have gotten stuck in their boats waiting for the tides to rise just to be able to get back to their homes. This is a serious issue with life safety implications for many of our older and senior citizen residents. This past weekend, we invited Commissioner Jack Mariano to our monthly meeting. He graciously attended. We took him out in our channels to personally see the conditions of our waterways and the issues we have at low tide. Mr. Mariano took photos of the shallow water, crop stars, and deteriorating navigational markers that make up our channel. These are the photos you're looking at today. As new developments come into the county, we should not forget about the older communities that have made this county so great for many years. I have all the confidence that this commission will find the resources to make this dredging request possible and include Westport subdivision in any plan moving forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
While Mr. Wilder was speaking, we had another individual that had pre-registered login, Shauna Loban.
Okay.
Ms. Loban, if you would like to state your name and address for the record, and then you may begin your comments.
Hi, I'm Shauna Loban, 19012 Tallerton Court, Lando Lake, District 4.
Thank you, ma'am. You may proceed.
Okay. I'm a registered voter and homeowner of Pasco County and a former planning commissioner of one of the fastest growing communities in the United States. I'm here to speak on the removal of our county ordinance dealing with short-term rentals in Pasco County. The central concern is current resident impacts to quality of enjoyment and expectation of standards under the ordinance structure that has been depended upon since the 1980s for the county. When an individual decides to convert their home into a hotel, they are consciously choosing specific risks in bringing unverified individuals into their home. Unfortunately, their adjacent neighbors take on similar risks and interact with these individuals without their consent. This effectively alters the zoning of their existing neighborhood, as commercial zoning from a hotel is much different than zoning for a neighborhood. Where is the compensation for the impacts of the neighbors that bought a home in an area that was guaranteed to be free of hotels through this ordinance and zoning? Relinquishing local control and stability in favor of distant control by state legislators and bureaucrats. It's not a good idea. Local control ensures that we have the stability of standards and predictability of life in Pasco County. We should just be very slow to hand over control of our daily lives in any aspect. It is confusing for an elected body to put a moratorium on apartment homes with the sacred property value, and then in the same period of time change standing ordinances to encourage transient renters in our county. We also had one of the commissioners speak about having a sense of community with all of these new developments being put in. How do Airbnbs contribute to that? They don't. Property owners have the right to peaceful enjoyment of their property through the contracts of their homes and the ordinances of this county. And strict and essential local controls, such as the short-term rental ordinance, are essential aspects of the quality of life here in Pasco County. A majority of these are the residents that live here year-round, unlike the investors that may only come out once in a while, or snowbirds that only live here a portion of the year. The residents that occupy their homes full-time are the ones voting in our local elections. Their voice is most important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I have no one else that pre-registered or logged in.
Okay. Do you have, is there anyone at the kiosk?
There is nobody at the kiosk at this time.
All right, thank you. Go ahead. You got emails to read?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I do have emails. There are a total of 22 emails. Of those, 13 are duplicates, so I could read the names and addresses of the individuals who sent it, and then just read that email once, and then I'll read the others.
Okay.
All right. So, the emails that I'll be reading that are duplicate, I'm going to read the names and address of the individuals. Bonnie Allen at 4651 Dewey Drive in Newport Richey, Florida. Myra Baker, 4362 Reeves Road, Newport Richey, Florida. Patricia Cunningham, 4282 Perry Place, Newport Richey, Florida. Doug Freimeyer and Jeannie Finch, 4055 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. Robert and Joanne Gottschalk, 4101 Perry Place, Newport Richey, Florida.
Madam Clerk,
Yes, sir.
Mr. People can't, I'm getting messages, people can't hear on TV and can't hear you in the audience. Just so you know.
I'll move my
And
mic closer.
yes, my Pasco TV is working, and I think something of the regular TV thing they're not hearing, they can only see. Just a heads up.
Okay.
That might be the TV station, so
Donnelly, can we hear?
now you can hear you.
I'll put it closer. All right, so I'm gonna just repeat the names and addresses. Bonnie Allen at 4651 Dewey Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. Myra Baker at 4362 Reeves Road, Newport Richey, Florida. Patricia Cunningham, 4282 Perry Place, Newport Richey, Florida. Doug Freimeyer and Janie Finch, 4055 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. Robert and Joan Gottschalk at 4101 Perry Place, Newport Richey, Florida. Jillian Graffey at 4570 Ingersoll Place, Newport Richey, Florida. Jim and Sue Green, 4000 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. Gianna, or maybe Gina, Keibel at 3907 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. Deborah Leone, 5613 Gulf Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. Teresa and Bill Liley, 4359 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. Joan and Jeannie Pilato, 5532 Gridley Lane, Newport Richey, Florida. Jeff and Paula Spivey, 5348 Lawrence Lane, Newport Richey, Florida. Sherry Weiler at 5420 Dahlgreen Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. All right, so those were the individuals that submitted the duplicate emails. I'll read the duplicate email at this time. We need to bring to your immediate attention a serious situation that could and already has resulted in an accident between a vehicle and a pedestrian which caused bodily harm to one of our GHWA residents and pets. There are many ongoing factors in GHWA which creates a dangerous situation for vehicles and our residents. We do not have any sidewalks. We have very narrow and winding roads. And most importantly, our current speed limit of 30 miles per hour is unsafe as drivers often cannot see and slow down in time to avoid hitting our many walkers, joggers, and bikers. For the safety of our residents, ranging from children to seniors, and to avoid future serious accidents, we therefore request that you immediately provide a safer situation for our community. 1, reduce the speed limit in GHWA. 2, post several danger winding roads and flashing signs so that drivers can lower their speed accordingly. We request that you take the above action because we are primarily concerned with creating a safer environment for our residents. We are also asking you to take these safety measures because we are equally concerned of the liability that might be levied against us and Pasco County if we are not proactive and if we do not take the action or the above action to protect our residents when we know for a fact that our current higher speed limit is unsafe for our seniors, children, and pets. Please note there is already a statute on the books, Florida Statute 316.183, that authorizes the reduction of speed limits in residential neighborhoods, quote, as may be necessary to avoid colliding with any person, vehicle, end quote. This statute clearly gives you the authority to lower our speed limit, and we are asking you to enforce it for the safety and welfare of our residents. Commissioners, we want to thank you in advance for taking immediate action to protect our residents and to prevent another accident in GHWA. GHWA stands for Gulf Harbors Woodlands Association. Okay. Here are the individual emails. The first email is from Candy and Andy Buck. They reside at 4435 Gulfside Drive in Newport Richey, Florida. Dear Pasco Commissioners, I reside at 4435 Gulfside Drive, Newport Richey, Florida 34652, and I request that the Pasco County Board of County Commissioners, BOCC, not add as an amendment and approval by the BOCC to include all the canals and waterways in the Sea Forest, or which includes Gulf Landings Association, and to not be included in the Phase 2 permitting that is scheduled for the May 18th, 2021 BOCC meeting. I request my email to be read and entered into the record of the May 18th, 2021 Board of County Commissioners meeting. Sincerely. Next email is from Barry Lasher, 5557 Sea Forest Drive, Unit 112, Newport Richey, Florida. Dear Commissioners, I request that this email be read into the record at the next meeting on this subject. I wish to thank the representatives that have already acknowledged my prior emails on this subject. As you each well know, boating and waterway access is an essential part of our Gulf lifestyle. The canals in our area are becoming more shallow and troublesome to navigate with each passing year. Without dredging, the time will soon come that boaters will be unable to access the Gulf in vessels which they currently own. Your current commitment of funds to dredging in this area will result in the dredge and associated resources already being in this area, and will offer the most cost-effective opportunity to provide a more comprehensive dredging solution to include the Gulf Landings, Sea Forest canals, and adjacent canal system. It is a very important opportunity to address this problem. Let's not miss it. Thank you again for listening and being responsive to your citizens and electorate. Best regards. Next email is from Deborah Cox. Address 4336 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. I own a home in the community of Gulf Harbors Woodlands in Marine Parkway in Newport Richey. We have lived there for the past 6 years and can tell you the traffic speeding is the traffic speeding by is a problem. The road is busy and has many curbs. We have service vehicles and neighbors using the full stretch of Marine Parkway. The way the road was built makes visibility limited and curbs dangerous. The vegetation in the community is mature and can also block sight lines, which is different from when the county was built and the 30 miles an hour was decided upon. There are no walkways. People that are walking or riding bikes are at a great risk of getting hit. We have a severe problem backing out of our driveway. Twice we've had a car come through our yard that was going too fast to avoid hitting us. Cars have gone off the road and through several yards in Marine Parkway from going too fast. I prefer not to walk or even stand near Marine Parkway for fear of getting run over. My grandchildren are not allowed in our front yard for fear of speeding cars losing control. Many of my neighbors feel the same. Even though there are signs suggesting a slower speed, drivers routinely travel more than the posted 30 miles per hour. We can't change the structure of the road with its many curves and lack of sidewalks, but we can make our community safer by lowering the speed limit and enforcing it. Deborah Cox. Next email is from Michael Dogali. Address is 4311 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida 34652, Gulf Harbors Woodlands. I have now lived in the Woodlands for almost 2 years and have experienced multiple close calls with speeding drivers almost hitting me, members of my family, our pets while on walks in our neighborhood, slower vehicles, and not long ago I witnessed a close call with a child waiting for a school bus. The speeding here needs to be addressed immediately. I don't believe that just lowering the speed limit is all that is going to take place. is all that it's going to take. Many times, right in front of my home in Pasco County, deputies sits in their vehicle to deter speeders, but as soon as they leave, people continue to speed. Either better enforcement or other means such as speed humps need to be implemented in our community. This is a major safety issue, and as more families with children move into our community, I fear that this issue is left unaddressed will lead to someone getting seriously hurt or possibly killed. Thank you for your time. The next email is from Neil Palka. Address is 9366 Marine Parkway, Newport Richey, Florida. I request that you vote in favor of reducing the speed limit within Gulf Harbor's Woodlands. The goal of a lower speed limit would be to improve the safety of the residents and the guests of the community while potentially providing some favorable environmental impacts. The safety of the residents and guests of this community is of paramount importance, and a lower speed limit would reduce the risk of accidents and also reduce the severity of accidents that could still occur. In addition to the potential of reducing the risk of harm to persons or property, other intangibles from a lower speed limit could arise, such as better fuel economy, which could translate to lower greenhouse gas emissions and reduced air pollution. There would seem to be no justifiable reason to vote against reducing the speed limit, and we hope that you will consider our request as it relates to this matter. Thank you for your attention to this very important matter. Sincerely. Next email is from Louis Stein, 4321 Dewey Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. We need to lower the speed limit in Gulf Harbor's Woodlands. We have no sidewalks and people need to slow down. The next email is from Bruce Weiler. Address is 5420 Dahl Green Drive, Newport Richey, Florida. Dear Commissioners, my name is Bruce Weiler. I have been a homeowner and resident of the Gulf Harbor's Woodlands neighborhood since August 2007. During this time, I have been concerned with the speed of traffic in the neighborhood, especially on Marine Parkway between Opal Lane and Dewey Drive. I am concerned about the safety of my family and neighbors who regularly walk around the neighborhood. The factors that create the concern are listed below. 1, traffic tends to move at or above the posted speed limit 30 miles per hour. 2, the section of Marine Parkway that I mentioned above winds around and is heavily wooded. Trees and shrubs encroach on the roadway, so driver visibility is limited and may prevent them from seeing pedestrians early enough to avoid an incident. 3, the neighborhood only has a couple of sections of sidewalks, so pedestrians are forced to use the roadway. As potential solutions, I would like the Commissioners to consider lowering the speed limit within the Gulf Harbor's Woodland neighborhood to 25 miles per hour or installing traffic quieting devices along Marine Parkway. Thank you very much for your consideration. Kindest regards. And the next email is from John Zavadny. Address is 5427 Lawrence Lane, Newport Richey, Florida. Here we go. We have been residents of Gulf Harbor's Woodlands since May of 2004. We love this community, we love the people, and we want to be safe. The roadways have become dangerous, very dangerous. Walking and bicycle riding have become very popular. Everyone is trying to stay fit and live longer. When Hummers, Teslas, and sports cars roar through the neighborhood way beyond 30 miles per hour, and something needs to be done. It is especially dangerous on Marine Parkway where the curvy roads traverse older trees and visibility is at a minimum. Nobody wants speed bumps. However, that may be the only solution if we can't reduce the speed limit to 20 or 25 miles per hour. And with the increased value, we have seen younger families moving in with many younger children. Who is going to take responsibility when one of those beautiful children is crushed by a gigantic pickup truck? Please help us. Action is needed. John and Audrey Zavadny, 5427 Lawrence Lane, Newport Richey, Florida, Gulf Harbors. The last email that I have is from Karen Hemingway. Address is 6009 Sea Ranch Drive, number 414, Hudson, Florida. I am a vacation rental owner at Gulf Islands Beach and Tennis Club. Please present my comments regarding the short-term rentals Tuesday at the VOCC. I have one condominium. It is managed by an excellent property manager, and there have never been any complaints nor no problems from the time I've owned it since January 20th, 2016. I occasionally stay at my own unit and a very short term. I occasionally stay at my own unit and a very short term. I would like to see that this issue is settled because we've been able to do this in the past and coming back and asking owners to continuously sign petition. I currently reside in another state, but I bought a personal home in a senior mobile home park in Hudson, Florida, Pasco County, and plan on being there shortly to reside in Florida. I just wanted to let you know that I do believe in short-term rentals, and I have used Airbnb in other countries and find them to be very honorable business people, and also VRBO brings many fine clients to my property. Thank you very much, sincerely. And that concludes the emails.
Do you have any more, or that's it? That's it?
It is all the emails that I have,
Okay.
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, sir. May I ask something real quick? A few meetings ago, we said we wanted to try to obviously get back to normal, start inviting people back in the boardroom again. I think we're at the point now where we need to stop reading emails into the record and keep it to either WebEx or live. We wanted to get, because everybody's in agreement, I'll make the motion, because I'll have to make a motion to remove that, and it will also need to remove it from the notice for next meeting. But if I think I have consensus, I'll make that motion now.
Okay.
Just to be clear, Mr. Chair, that does require an amendment to our resolution.
Yes, sir.
So we'd
We'll
have to
bring
do
back
it
the first.
at the next meeting. We can't do it today, but at the next meeting, we can do that.
Right.
Okay.
So if I'm not correct, what would happen, Mr. Goldstein, is if that motion passes today, or move it from the notice for the next meeting, there's a possibility emails in the morning still will be read into the record next meeting, but the afternoon during public hearings, they would not be able to be read as long as that passes.
That's correct. You still have to allow public comment on the consent agenda in the morning if
Right.
somebody really wanted to do that. But
Right.
you can direct that the notice for the next meeting not include that option.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, and I think if we're going to make an adjustment, let's do a good adjustment as well. I think we need to look at the structure as far as what the spacing is of the seating now. The way COVID is now minimized, I think it's those who feel comfortable let them come in, but I think we need to make sure we have enough room in here too. So as we can take a look at that when we bring it forward, let's kind of look at being a little bit more flexible with the space.
Well,
And because one of the reasons why, like, for instance, the gentleman from Westport that spoke in public comment,
Yep.
when I went over the pictures, we had a whole bunch of people that would have come in, they would have emailed or whatever. I says, no, don't
Sure.
do that. I need one spokesman.
Yep.
Talk about the whole thing going through, and if you want to come to the meeting, bring everybody with you, and you can leave the spokesman rather than tying us up for a lot of time. I will say, I didn't know we're going to get all those Gulf Harbors Woodlands emails coming in. Staff is looking at that, we're identifying that, but I think you're right, we need to go back to more normalcy.
Yep. I think WebEx is still good, given the people, especially the
I
people
agree.
that aren't able to come in, disabilities and
I
things.
agree
You guys are
100%.
good. All right, so that's my motion, if I can get a second.
Second.
I get a second.
Did you add something to add?
Well-
It's just nice, Chairman.
We have a motion and a second.
I just think
Go ahead.
I was saying, I think it's nice to be able to offer the email, as some people may be afraid to speak in front of a crowd, but they can still voice their opinion and share their opinion.
Well, I want to be clear. I think the commissioner's motion doesn't preclude people from sending in emails. They can still
just
send
don't
in
be- they're not
emails,
read
they
into
just
the record.
won't be read into the record.
They've always been
Just
able to
won't
do
be
that.
read.
That's back to normal.
And the other
But
thing I want to
still send them
clarify
in.
is that the capacity of the room is not set by the resolution, that's actually set by facilities, so they can change that at any point that they want to.
I think we're only allowed 18 people, Mr. Biles.
Yes, sir. We're going to reevaluate it every time.
More
Okay.
capacity the other
All right.
office
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call vote?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
though. Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously.
Mr. Chair.
Okay? Yeah.
While I was reading emails, we had another individual who had pre-registered come online with WebEx.
Okay.
Okay. Okay,
I haven't
so,
actually closed public hearing yet, so let's hear that person.
okay. Darlene DeYonke, if I pronounced your name correctly, I hope I did. If you would please state your name and address for the record, and you may begin your comments.
Darlene DeYonke, this is 515 Sea Ranch Drive, Unit 109, Hudson, Florida, 34667.
Go ahead.
Thank you, ma'am. You may begin.
Okay. All right, it's reserving that anyone who is a majority owner in Sunset Phase 4, a potential vacation property at Gulf Island next door to my residential property where I've lived for 27 years, would propose to change vacation rental ordinance at Gulf Island in order residential properties in Pasco County. This is conflict of interest. Sorry, recruiting oneself on this vote is unacceptable and not enough. There should be no vote, no proposal, no motion. Not only is the commission looking to change a change in vacation rental authorization requirements that will benefit property in the future, whether or not this property in the future, whether or not it is up for sale, its legislative assistant and supported of conducting a canvassing campaign to solicit support for emails for the change and meeting. But I am not in favor of this vacation rentals, have never been informed of the meeting. A quote from a real estate agent says, this is a follow-up email from the one sent a couple of weeks ago. Mariano's have been asking for everyone who supports vacation rentals in Pasco County to send emails in support. This meeting has an agenda item to discuss changing or eliminating Pasco County's ordinance relative to vacation rentals. Unquote. Don't all residents of Gulf Island and Pasco County deserve to be informed of discussion of possible changes for vacation rentals? Unquote. Owner owns 5 vacation rentals and a letter to owners where I live. So his email to Mariano's office instructions on assistant below. Jack is pushing to get this ordinance changed so we no longer have to collect 51% of neighbors' signatures to get approval, but he needs our support. Please share this information with homeowners with vacation rentals, real estate agents, property management companies, neighbors whose support has changed. Never the total population of the people that are not interested in this. This letter and other advice were not sent to all owners at Gulf Island. And just goes in favor of eliminating the ordinance behind our backs. Why? So far, I can't get it from when they do when they inform the public. I do not want my residential property turned into a motel. We owners who do not look at Gulf Island as a gold mine for investors need the protection of conflict administrators. Conflict of interest is such a lack of transparency. We're involved in this attempt to secretly sidestep owners, silence our voices, blindside us all at the same time, change the vacation rental ordinances. Please do not vote to change vacation rental registration ordinance by lowering or eliminating 51% of owners' signatures required. Do not change the non-vacation rental status for Gulf Island. Please protect homeowners and tax committees who do not want their neighborhoods turned into motels. Please recognize conflict of interest for what it is. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
if I could, we talked about how we want public comment to be, so let me just make a couple of comments to that real quick. This was brought in by a lady who was doing vacation rentals, and she found out an Airbnb, the county was shutting her down. There was 169 other Airbnbs done in just the Hudson area. That's how this came about. At Gulf Islands, there's 2 other condominium associations, Building 1, Building 2, and 3. They have the power to get 51% vote and just do it. My Phase 4 coming forward, we can do the same thing independent from anything. I don't need anything to change in the ordinance. And then we'll address that later on my end, but just so you know,
Okay.
I didn't bring this forward. The people brought it forward for different reasons, and
Right.
just want to make that clear.
Understand. Okay. So, we have anyone else on WebEx? No one else? Then, public comment time period is closed. Kiosk is closed until 1:30 this afternoon during public hearings. At this time, the next order of business is consent agenda. I have a pull sheet with one item on it, C43, to pull and revise. Any commissioners want to add anything to the list? No?
Move approval of the remaining consent agenda.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to move approval on all the rest of the consent items. All those in favor by roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, C-43.
Good
Welcome.
morning. Mike Carvalho, Assistant County Administrator, Public Infrastructure. There was a numerical error on page 2 of the change order that has been corrected and distributed.
Move for approval as
Second.
revised.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call vote?
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed unanimously. Okay, done with consent. We will move on to our regular items. Okay, now we go to the regular agenda. Each regular item is called in order. Let's see where I'm at here. R-72.
Mr. Chair, that is my item. And if the commissioners remember, about 6 months ago-ish, this board had requested that my office present on a semi-annual basis the schedule of investments of the county. So I think this is really great timing to be able to do that today. So we will continue to do that going forward around every 6 months to present the schedule of investments to you. And we do submit it quarterly to you, just the schedule itself. So you'll have that if we don't have a presentation. So up at the podium, we have Mr. Scott Stitcher. He is the Director of Relationship Management, with PFM. And attending virtually with PFM, if there's any questions, are Sean Gannon, Senior Managing Consultant with Relationship Manager, Scott Sweden, the Senior Managing Consultant as a Client Manager, and Steve Alexander, who is the Managing Director. Also up at the podium is my office's Finance Director, our Director of Financial Services, Manny Long. And in the audience, if need be, we have Matt Lazar, who is the Assistant Finance Director, and also our Chief Administrative Officer, Heather Grimes. So I would like for Mr. Stitcher as well as Mr. Long to be able to present the investment to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, very good to be with you this morning in person. We appreciate the opportunity. As the clerk mentioned, my name is Scott Stitcher with PFM Asset Management. We've been entrusted to manage a high-quality fixed income investment portfolio on behalf of the county. We do so within the parameters set forth by Florida State Statute 218.415, as well as the county's ordinance and investment policy. And as you probably know, the main objective of that state statute in your policy is the safety of principal, followed by liquidity, and then yield. I want to make some brief economic backdrop comments. They kind of support the performance numbers that we'll look at here in a second. When we last spoke, we talked about the fact that the pandemic continues to shape the global markets and economy. That really hasn't changed. We felt that business as usual is not likely to return to normal until a vaccine is widely distributed. The good news is we've seen marked improvement in the economy, and we've seen marked improvement in the rollout of the vaccine, with now roughly 42% of Americans fully vaccinated, about 140 million people. The Fed has, in that time period, has reaffirmed its commitment to utilize the full scope of its monetary authority until a full economic recovery is achieved. They were doing so by keeping short-term rates very short, in a range of 0 to 0.25%. Why is that important? Well, as a fixed income investor, that truly acts as a headwind to you all, so that is an impediment in higher returns in the near term. They also continue to plan to purchase $120 billion a month in Treasury and mortgage-backed securities to maintain that liquidity and keep interest rates in check. The Fed has come out and been very transparent. They've said they anticipate the rollout of the vaccination, the trillions of dollars in fiscal stimulus, their efforts in monetary policy to impact the economy, and they anticipate the fastest expansion of the U.S. economy in 30 years. They've increased their projections in growth from 4.2% to 6.5% as a result of that. With all that said, with that backdrop, what we saw in the first quarter of 2021 was interest rates on the longer end of the yield curve increased dramatically with this optimism of improved economic growth, as well as the anticipation of inflation that would come along with that. So what that means is longer duration or longer maturity benchmarks actually saw slightly negative returns during the quarter. And again, we're going to take a closer look at this in a little bit. Before we get to that, though, I thought I'd turn it over to you, Manny, to talk a little bit. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners. Appreciate this. Even with the low interest rates that we're seeing, we continue to meet the benchmarks that are set forth for the short-term and long-term bond funds. Again, first and foremost, as Scott mentioned, we are maintaining the safety and security of the principal of Pasco County funds. As of the end of the second quarter, March 31st, 2021, the total unrestricted portfolio, as you'll see on the screen there, is $1.17 billion. The short-term investment distributed out from the Florida Trust Day-to-Day Fund is $566 million. The SBA, $110 million with $10.5 million in the local government investment pool, the Florida class. Total investments that we actually manage is $1.5 billion at March 31st, 2021. Again, $320 million that is restricted investments that we do. Longer term investments are with PFM, $215 million. Florida Trust Short-Term Bond Fund, $257 million, and $10.6 million in CDs with qualified public depositors. Again, this is our March 31st, 2021. We do see that on the next slide, if you can go to the next slide there, when we are looking at the Pasco County's investment policy, you will see that the gold bars are the limits for our investment policy. The blue bars are where we are within that restricted investment policy. So when you look at our local government investment pools, we were at 71.39%, almost at our limit of 75% for local government investment pools. We do have another slide a little later on that we can kind of show you that we moved money out of our local government investment pool to longer term duration, so that we could actually take advantage of, like Scott mentioned, on the longer term yield curve there. So, and I'll turn it back over to Scott here.
Thanks, man. So I'm going to fast forward to slide 6 within the presentation and focus on the pool of money that PFM is responsible for. So what Manny just shared with you is county-wide, looking at all the assets in aggregate, and we are, again, a portion of that pie, so to speak. So on page 6, actually 6 through 7, is a summary of, again, the assets that we're responsible for. I'll pause for a second for that, for the presentation to catch up.
Mr. Chairman?
There we go.
Excuse me.
I never got a copy of this presentation. It doesn't show up on the computer either, so when you talk like 60 pages, we're not seeing it, right?
I don't know what to say. It was submitted, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago.
No, because it's not showing on my computer, so until this thing rolls along, I don't see it. So I see page 6 now.
Okay.
I don't know, when we submit them, I don't know how it gets to the commissioners.
I don't have a copy.
You
At
don't
least
have
I was printed a copy.
Well, even on the computer agenda, it didn't show it that you could, there wasn't an attachment for it.
I don't know if we submitted it like 3 weeks ago.
I'm looking at a paper copy of my book, you know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like to have someone downstairs print it for you?
Or at least email it to us so we have a copy of it, right?
Is there a
It's in
different
the-
process we
It's in
need
the
to follow?
PowerPoint presentations, though, if you found the PowerPoint presentation.
I don't know, just let me know what the, if you want a different process to follow, and we'll do that.
Get Marie to make us a
I'll
copy.
give it to you, I think it's,
Yeah, just for the future, let's have it. We'll get a copy, we'll look at it, we can bring up any question we got later, but.
Of course.
Make us a copy of the paperwork for R-72. All right, thank you. She'll make us all a copy, so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait.
All right, thank you. So on page 6 is a summary of the investment portfolio, again, that PFM is responsible for. I'll just point out some high-level details around the portfolio and note that we ended the first quarter of 2021 with a market value of $215,630,729. The average credit quality of the portfolio stands at AA, and that's represented in that pie chart in the upper left, where we give you the S&P ratings of the portfolio. I'll also note that I mentioned earlier we manage a high-quality fixed income portfolio. It's a very diversified fixed income portfolio, and that's represented in the sector allocation breakdown in the pie chart in the upper right. Why is that important? Well, we're going to talk about that when we look at the performance. It's something that worked against you in the first quarter of 2020, but has benefited you very much since that time. I'll also point you to the yield at market on this portfolio. It stands at about a 0.61%. The yield at cost at 1.27%. Again, why is that important? Well, those numbers are quite significant when you look at your alternatives on the short end, like money market funds, local government investment pools, and bank accounts. So the yield pickup on the longer duration portfolio is quite substantial in this environment and has been beneficial to the county. I'll also point you to the maturity distribution on the bottom. And you can see that the majority of the portfolio is invested in that 1 to 2 and 2 to 3 year part of the yield curve. And again, why is that important? Well, that means you've locked in your income for a longer period of time. That means you have less securities maturing, which need to be invested in today's rate environment at lower yields. So you've locked in yield for a longer period of time. And again, that will benefit you in this low rate environment. I want to go to page 7 and just look at performance here briefly. It seems like a busy page. I'm going to point you to a couple data points on it. What you're looking at is the 4 most recent quarter ends of performance, as well as 1 and 3 year annualized returns. And I'm going to point you to that first column that for the period ending March 31st, 2021. And you'll note the portfolio was flat for the quarter at 0%. Net of fees slightly negative at a negative 0.02%, but we did outperform the benchmark. I mentioned earlier that interest rates rose during the quarter, which was not good for longer duration securities. And the benchmark was down a negative 0.05%. So about 3 basis points or 0.03% of outperformance for the quarter. I want to focus on something a little longer in nature and look at that 1 year number, as 1 quarter truly does not create a trend, and point you to the total return for the portfolio for the trailing 12 months ending March 31st. The portfolio was up 1.98%. After fees, 1.92%, versus the benchmark at 0.26%. Why is this significant? What's not on here is the end of the first quarter in 2020, when you saw this flight to quality, when it was evident that the pandemic was upon our shores and a diversified strategy worked against you. So I commend the clerk and the staff at the county in remaining true to the investment discipline, remaining true to your investment policy, and remaining in a diversified strategy. It clearly worked in your favor if you look at that 6/30/2020 column, when the portfolio and the fixed income markets came roaring back as the Fed stepped in and provided liquidity in the markets. So again, that sticking to your discipline definitely contributed to that 1 year number. So again, I commend the county staff. let me stop there, see if there are any questions. If not, I'm going to hand it back over to Manny.
Thank you. Any questions so far?
Anybody have any
All right.
questions?
Not seeing any. If we can go to the next page, page 8. And this is the end of April 30th, 2021, just to kind of show, as you remember from the previous slide, that we were at 71.39% in local government investment pools. We did move a significant amount of money to PFM. You can see their unrestricted longer-term investments at now $368 million, when at the end of March, we were at, I think it was $215 million for that. So we moved quite a bit of money on there to take advantage of PFM's expertise and some longer-term investments on there. So I think that's kind of all I have here, Scott, unless you had anything else, that we can answer any questions that you all might have.
Any questions from commissioners? If you don't have any, we'll get the paperwork, we'll get a copy, and each commissioner will receive one. We'll give it to them, so they want to refer back to. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to R73. Welcome.
Hi. I'm just waiting for the PowerPoint.
Make sure your mics pull it to you.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Erica Wayland, Planning and Development. Item R73 PDD 210379 is a request to appoint 13 members to the Northeast Pasco County Rural Advisory Committee. On March 23, 2021, the Board of County Commissioners adopted Resolution Number 21-137, establishing the Northeast Pasco County Rural Advisory Committee to evaluate and assess all current policies and regulations related to the Northeast Pasco County Rural Overlay District. The resolution requires the BCC to appoint 13 voting members to the Pasco County Northeast Rural Advisory Committee. As established, it's comprised of 13 voting members of the following categories: 5 property owners that are residents, 5 business owners, and 1 land use attorney, and 2 at-large members. On May 5th, 2021, a press release was distributed to the public requesting eligible candidates to apply to the NARIC. By May 14th, 2021, Pasco County BCC collected 22 forms for membership appointments for the NARIC. Planning and Development Department reviewed the candidates and recommends the following 13 candidates. For the property owners category, we have Nancy Hazelwood, Anthony Mithune, Lisa Moretti, Mary Kay Harrison, and Diana Hughes Diaz. The next category, we have the Northeast Rural Business Owners: Craig Latin Jr., James N. Hancock, Paul Bocher, Frank Greco, and Ronnie L. Deese. And for the third category, we have the 2 members at large: Cindy Tarapini, Christopher Williams, and the land use attorney G. Randall Randy James. We request that the BCC vet the candidates as shown to establish the Northeast Pasco County Rural Advisory Committee as provided in this resolution number 21-137. Thank you.
Okay. Any questions?
I just have one. Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
No. Your district,
Yeah.
I mean, how do you...
The staff actually showed me this
Okay.
group. Out of the 22, they chose these 13.
Okay.
I've looked them over. I think they did a good job in placing them, and I think it's good, and it's balanced with people that are in that community, live in that community, and have or maybe stakeholders, you might call. So I think they did a good job in selecting the 13 out of the 22, and it's my committee, and I'll
So
be
you're
able to work
comfortable with
these
it?
people. It'll be good.
Okay.
Okay. And some of the purpose we're doing this is because we always get kickback when there's good projects that come in that area. And actually, there hasn't been anything decided for a long time on one thing particular was some commercial that's been employment centers for a long time, like 41 and 75, and some other areas that, like Lacoochee, we're redeveloping Lacoochee, and we got a couple of manufacturers in that area. So we want to make sure we have a good place for workforce housing. And in the Northeast rural, the way it was, you couldn't do that. So we're going to designate and look at those items and then bring that back to the board for a vote. So, in the future. So I think it's going to be a good process, and people will be able to voice their opinion. I think we got a great committee with the 13 that we've got chosen. So, okay. So with that, entertain a motion.
Motion for approval.
Second.
And a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Well, the only one I would like to have seen on there that isn't on there is Seth.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I
Is it?
Seth Sweetman. I don't know what category
Yeah.
that was.
Yeah.
But they,
I thought
staff did a good job in the committee.
Okay, do you have alternates?
No, we don't have any alternates.
All
But
right.
we have the remaining group there, we could, but we didn't put any alternates.
Once
We
you make
expect
the
everybody to
motion.
serve. If we find that out, I'll bring it back and ask for an
Well,
alternate.
if I could amend the motion to include an alternate and
I'm in.
have Seth
Yeah,
Sweetman.
I accept that.
Okay.
I'm comfortable.
So I got a motion and a second. All those in favor by roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. Okay, thank you. Move on to R74.
Good morning.
Good morning, Bob.
How are you? Good morning, Bob Gorig, Pasco County Budget Director. The item you have before you is a resolution authorizing staff to pursue the second tranche of the general obligation bond, which would fund the construction of the detention center expansion. And with your permission, I'll read the title into the record this time. A resolution of the Board of County Commissioners of Pasco County, Florida, supplementing resolution number 19-56 adopted by the Board of County Commissioners on December 11, 2018, which authorized the issuance of the Pasco County, Florida general obligation bonds, jail improvements and projects in one or more series in the original aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $132,150,000, authorizing not to exceed of $107,933,563.20 of general obligation bonds series 2021B jail projects and improvements, fixing certain details of sale of said bonds, approving the forms of the summary notice of sale and of official notice of sale with respect to such bonds, delegating to the county administrator or budget director the authority to determine the principal amounts of such bonds to be issued and the bid date with respect to such bonds, to award the sale thereof to the lowest conforming bidder based on bids submitted at public sale, and to determine the terms of such sale, approving the form and authorizing the execution and delivery of a disclosure dissemination agent agreement, appointing the bond registrar and paying agent, approving the form and authorizing the distribution of a preliminary official statement, and authorizing the execution and delivery of an official statement pertaining to the bonds, authorizing certain officials of the county to execute any document or to take any action required in connection with the issuance of said bonds, providing certain other matters in connection therewith, providing for the severability of parts hereof if declared invalid, and providing for an effective date. If there are no questions, I'd be happy to field any questions. If there are no questions, we recommend approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor by aye. Roll call vote.
District 2, Commissioner Moore.
Aye.
District 3, Commissioner Starkey.
Aye.
District 4, Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Aye.
District 5, Commissioner Mariano.
Aye.
District 1, Chairman Oakley.
Aye. Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just to ask a question, it wasn't related to this, but it's coming up. Are we going to hear a presentation about what's going to go on with the project as far as how we're working on different facets that we're going to be in it? I know I've met with consultants a few months ago, but.
I mean, if the board would like, we can bring a presentation to the board on the design and what we've worked out with the sheriff,
Yeah,
and how
I'd
we're
like
planning
to
on
see
doing
it.
that, so.
I think the public would like to see it too.
Yeah.
We're spending a lot of money.
I'm hearing a yes, so.
Okay, we'll schedule
So we'd
that
like to see
probably,
that. Okay,
probably the July or August meeting.
okay. Very good. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
All right, move on to R75.
Yes, sir. Commission, this is kind of an update of where we are with the budget process. You know, today, we gave you a projection of revenues back in February. I will say I think the market's changed to the good significantly since then, so this is kind of updated to a certain extent in response to that. Kind of the general goal today is to give you a high-level overview of where we are with respect to revenue and some of the required expenses, excuse me, but also to kind of give you an idea of some of the business plan initiatives and the various funds that we are recommending, and then get your feedback as we go through to if there's anything we missed. Bob sent out last night a draft, and its draft is still reasonably fluid, mainly because we're waiting on today, but also some other input of the general fund and municipal services fund business plan initiatives, for your review, and kind of to, if you see something on there that you would like to elevate, now's the time for us to have that discussion. But he's also going to cover the other major funds. So I just wanted to tee that up. This leads into developing the final budget and setting of the trim that you'll do in July, and then obviously the budgets that are produced and distributed to the board prior to the public hearings in September. So still a lot of work to do, but this is really for a dialogue and discussion about making sure we're on the right track with respect to various BPIs in the different funds, not necessarily just the general fund, but the general other major funds. So with that said, I'll turn it over to Bob and let him go into it.
Thank you.
Okay.
So as we wait for the presentation to be pulled up, thank you. Go to the next slide, please. As Dan mentioned, we are in the point of the process where we have received our preliminary or draft budgets from our department directors, and those include any new spending, which we call business plan initiatives. And so as Dan mentioned, we want to review those business plan initiatives with you here today, get your feedback on them, and to give you the opportunity, as Dan said, if there's anything we missed that you'd like to elevate, please bring that to our attention. Next, please. First, I'd like to talk about the preliminary taxable assessed values that we received from the property appraiser on June 1st. As you know, we get the preliminary June 1st, we'll get the final on July 1st. And the preliminary, that's mislabeled there, the preliminary taxable assessed values is just over $35 billion. You'll notice the new construction figure was just over $1 billion last year, and the new construction this year is almost $1.4 billion. The reevaluations, those are properties that have had some sort of significant improvement made to them. That nearly doubled from $1.1 billion to $2 billion between 21 and 22. Next, please. And so that $35 billion taxable assessed value is a 10.8% increase over last year, which is an astounding figure. And as you know, that increase of 10.8% generates about $24.7 million in additional ad valorem tax revenues. We have an informal agreement with the sheriff in which we split any new property tax revenues. And so of that 24 million, 12.4 would go to the sheriff, 12.4 would go to the county and other constitutionals. Of that 12.36 million, we would deduct 4.92 million off the top, and that's the amount of money that goes to the community redevelopment agencies as well as the taxable increment funding area, TIF. And those are used for transportation, public transportation, and public works. And so once we do that math, the amount of money available to the board and constitutionals for new spending is $7.44 million. If we go to the next slide, please. Anyone who's spent any time in Pasco County driving around would understand this new construction value of $1.38 billion. And every year since 2014, after the recession, that has been an increase in every single year since 2014. Next, please. And so we saw the $7.44 million there that we had in additional ad valorem revenues in which to spend. We do have some things in which we categorize them as must spends. First is the board gave us a directive to increase the general fund reserve. This is the emergency reserve to 16.7%, so we'll be able to do that this year. We'll bring online Fire Stations 3 and Fire Station 9 will come online this year. There has been an increase or a change to the employee retirement, both for general employees and for public safety employees. That change is about $600,000 to the general fund. We have some contractual obligations with Starkey Park and Gulf Harbors. Medical examiner, the number of the caseload for the medical examiner is increasing year over year. And then finally, the contribution to state Medicaid. We pay about $7.4 million a year to state Medicaid. That increases about $300,000 to $400,000 per year. Next, please. So we're proposing some capital investments in the general fund to be funded from the general fund. And of course, the first two of these are facility investments to the upkeep of our current facilities, and then IT hardware and software, just ongoing kind of replacement, renovation, and upkeep of those things. The next two things are related to Central Facilities Building. Central Facilities currently works out of the fire station at Land O'Lakes. In 2 years, that fire station will be demolished. That's one of the bond project fire stations that's going to be rebuilt. So we need to relocate the Central Facilities crew. And to do that, we need to build the road that will lead to the fire training center in the central part of the county. And so the rest of these projects are small projects, and we finally conclude with the dredging and permitting design project of about $640,000. Next, please. So we ask all of our department directors to go out there, look at their levels of service, look at their performance measures. What kinds of things do they need in their budgets to provide the services that our customers, residents, and business owners would expect, and to come back to us with these business plan initiatives. You can see we've received there's 111 business plan initiatives there. Certainly we cannot afford to fund all of those, and so we had to prioritize those in our budgeting process. You'll notice the last item there, salary increase for firefighters and BCC employees. That's a 4% increase for all employees, and that's about $3 million. Next, please. And so once we took all the initiatives, all those 111 initiatives, we determined how much money we would have based on taking the $7.44 million, subtracting the must pays, et cetera, and that's the list you have here. So the list that we provided to you yesterday is the prioritized list, and I won't go into each and every one of these. However, if there are any that you would like me to spend more time on, any you have questions on, please let me know. I'll just touch on some of these. The first one I would like to touch on is our planning technical team. In the development process, the planning zoning is an area that's kind of a bottleneck. And so we're putting a technical team in the current planning, and then you'll notice on the next page a zoning team to help us clear that bottleneck. We're adding some code enforcement officers. We're adding a records technician to help with the public records requests in 911. Currently, we have a growing number of public records requests from the court system, and the courts put a very hard deadline on when we have to produce those documents and or voice recordings. And so currently, to keep up with that, from time to time, we have to pull people off the line that are call takers to help us fulfill those requests. And so this will put another person to just help us with the fulfilling those public records requests, so we don't have to pull people off of the phones. And then finally, our veteran service officer in the caseloads is increasing in the central Land O'Lakes office. There's one officer that works out of that office, and if that officer is on training or vacation or something, then we have to do some clever switching around to make sure that that office isn't vacant. And so this would put another person in that particular location. Next, please.
Mr. Chairman, just a quick question. On the planning technical team.
Yes, sir.
Is that going to be funded through the permitting fees?
Yes, thank you. That's a great point, yes. For the most part, those zoning and the the technical team are funded through fees. Yes, thank you. Continuing on, we have Rescue 230. So in the Newport Richey, Massachusetts Avenue area, there's a large call volume there, so we want to put an additional rescue unit at Station 30. That IT network, SCADA, is the operating network, the operating control system for your utility. And so we'd like to put another technician on that. And then facility maintenance technicians. As the amount of office space that we have, the amount of building space we have increases, we need more technicians, more folks in facilities to maintain those buildings. Next, please. Outside funding provided by the county, we provide over $2 million a year to outside charitable organizations, including United Way. And you'll see we provide $15,000 to 2 museums, one on the east side and one on the west side of the county. Next, please. As you're no doubt aware, Pasco County is required to contribute to the operation of the 6th Judicial Circuit. Pinellas and Pasco make up the 6th Judicial Circuit. And you can see for the most part there, the requests for funding from those various divisions haven't changed all that much with the exception of medical examiner. And so with the increase in population and with the alarming increase in use of opioids, the caseload for the medical examiner has been increasing, and so they're requesting additional funding this year to pay for those. We were fortunate in 20 and 21 that any of the autopsies that were performed that were found to be of COVID-related deaths, the CARES money was able to pay for those autopsies. Pasco County residents didn't need to pay for those. Next, please. So here we have a summary of the constitutional officer budget requests. As you know, the sheriff, clerk, supervisor of elections, their budgets are due to the May 1st. The property appraiser, his budget is due June 1st, and then the tax collector's budget is due August 1st. So here's a summary of each of those 4 constitutional officers, and I'll go through each one of them in turn. Next, please. You can see the sheriff's office requests. Here are some of the things that the sheriff has added in his budget. You'll notice that the sheriff built his budget with a $9 million increase, and that was at our request. We estimated that the budget would increase, the taxable assessed values would increase by about 8%, and that would have yielded $9 million, and so that was the request. So based on our agreement, that half, that $9 million will increase to about $12.4 million. And so staff will continue to work with the sheriff to update his budget to make sure that he's got funding that's needed. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I have a question on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Did he request 9 million and he's getting 12?
No, what we said was our agreement is he gets half of new
Right.
ad valorem property taxes. So to help him, give him a target on what his budget should look like, we felt that 8% increase in taxable assessed values was about right. And it turned out that it was 10.8. And so it would increase from $9 million to 12.4.
But do we see what that delta will buy us? We're gonna get more
We'll
deputies?
get an updated budget from them with the new number. And again, you know, this is about 4 years running where we've done this. They've gone down with us when the property appraiser's number's gone down. They've gone up when,
Yeah,
you know, so
no,
it's fluid. So, you know,
I understand that. I
yes,
just
we will,
wonder-
we're gonna work with our team to get an updated budget to match the updated number. And again, this is a preliminary number, so we may work with them, but, you know, we're gonna get a final number in about 2.5 weeks.
Okay.
So we may not get an updated final one until we see what the final number is from the property appraiser on the 1st of July.
Okay.
So we are working with their team to make sure that we both stay in lockstep with kind of that, you know, that.
I mean, I would guess they are probably like us. They have their list of priorities that they want and they had to cut it off at the 9 million,
Correct.
whatever. And so I just
Absolutely.
wondered what was
Yeah,
below
We'll
Yeah.
we'll get that.
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the things which is good too, what kind of discussions I think maybe some of you had too, is beefing up traffic enforcement.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
You had some constituents this morning talk about traffic enforcement, and one of the things they've talked about is definitely beefing up traffic enforcement, which I know that we've all gotten those emails, which
Yeah.
that was a good.
I'm just
Great to
hoping,
hear. Yep.
yeah, and I'm just hoping part of that is getting more deputies, because I've heard them say, you know, we're growing a lot, and we certainly want to have the right number of deputies out and about in the county. So I did see that they're getting 30 more, but I don't know what the best ratio is.
Yeah, I think there'll be some more, you know, patrol, but also, you know, as we expand the jail, there's going to need to be more personnel costs associated with that as well. So some of that may be, you know, built into that as well. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think Commissioner Mariano was.
Mr. Chair.
Oh, she's on.
Commissioner Mariano was waving.
I'm Marion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, on the 50-50 split, it's 50% for the county, 50% for the sheriff, which on the county's end includes all the constitutionals. And I think we just saw the clerk's request is much higher, and she can probably, she'll go through all that, but that's a huge chunk of money, about $4 million more money. And that's something that in the agreement, should we be looking at that a little closer? If we have to have an extraordinary expense increase, which we'll be presented with, do we take a look at that agreement and maybe tweak it a little bit?
I think is a percent growth that is still below 10% growth in his budget. Compare that to the other constitutionals, I think that's reasonable. His growth, even at $12 million a year, is less than a 10% growth year over year. And as you look at the other requests, they're all in excess of 20%. So I think
As a percentage of total, it's.
yeah, it is a percent growth. And remember that he's still got to deal with increased population.
No, I understand. I'm just saying, this is like an extraordinary year.
Of traffic enforcement, I think his percent growth in his budget, and if you actually go back in history, he's actually probably got some catching up that he needs to do. So I think we're in a good place for that.
Okay.
Okay, next, please.
Mr. Chairman, Mr.
Yeah.
Chairman,
Who was that?
I would also like to, it's Commissioner Fitzpatrick.
Oh, it didn't sound like you. Doesn't sound like you.
All right, go
My
ahead.
voice is changing right now.
Oh.
I would just like to also intervene and make mention, I would like to make sure that we're retaining our officers and we're not losing our officers to surrounding counties and making sure that their salaries
took care of that.
are comparable to surrounding counties as well.
Yeah, Commissioner, we took care of that
Yeah,
before you got here.
yeah, we had to raise taxes for that one.
And, yes, I know it's consistently increasing though. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next slide, please. The clerk and comptroller's request came in with about a $9 million increase. The salary, retirement, health insurance increases of $365,000. Those are already included in the base budget for the clerk. Court-related technologies of $1.2 million. We took that request and added it to our business plan initiative list. That's currently not funding. It's below the cut line, so it's not funded currently. And then we have the court-related local requirements of $7 million. We don't feel that's an appropriate expense for the county. And so that is also not funded.
Mr. Chair, would you like for me to, I'd like to talk on this. Do you want me to
Okay,
wait till after?
go ahead.
Or?
No, ask now.
All right, great. Thank you for advising me the information. I didn't know but until right now what the recommendation is. However, I just want to point out the court-related technology, it's not just for court-related technology, it's also for the board services technology. So I just want to make sure that that was just accurately depicted. And I met with each of you back in April, and I met with Mr. Biles and his team. My team met with his team, and we've talked through this increase. Obviously didn't want it to become at the last minute, so walked through some of the items, maybe many of the items on the list, down to line item details. And I didn't get the attorney's opinion, Assistant County Attorney wrote an opinion in regards to the funding request until last week, and so I sent a letter to this board requesting an opportunity for me to meet with Jeff Steinsnyder, our county attorney, and to meet with me and as well as Dan Biles with a specific purpose to look at the legal requirements for board funding of my office, and which includes the court-related portion of it. And I'd like to have that opportunity and for us to focus on the legal requirements versus non-required funding. And if I could have that opportunity to go through that with him, I think that we can probably come back and have better understanding of the numbers as it relates to the legal aspect of them.
Mr. Chair, and I appreciate that. I think, as a board, and I guess I can only speak for myself now, but, our county attorney is where we take our direction from, and our county attorney's office is the one that does the research for the Board of County Commissioners and our board. So that's the recommendation as a board that, we're entrusted to follow our county attorney's interpretation of statutes and of laws. And that's typically the counsel that we should and are probably required to follow, to be honest with you.
Go ahead. And I do want to say I talked with our administrator yesterday about the technology funding, and I think that's something that we might be able to do, at least part of that in the delta that we got between the 8 and the 10.8. So I'm hoping that we'll be able to throw some money there and help with that part of the budget. I guess, you know, as far as the courthouse issue, and I don't know if you want to spell that out a little more, what's going on, but I guess there's a dispute on, because we're unusual and we have 2 courthouses, that we should be funding it differently. And as the commissioner said, our attorney has a different interpretation than your attorney. So you know what happens when attorneys disagree. I'm sure there'll be more discussion on that one. And I think it's good to have a dialogue, though, that you guys should be talking to our guys so that we can, you know, see if we can come to a resolution without going down a road that when you have 2 opposing attorneys' views. So I hope we can come to some kind of agreement on what's appropriate there. But I agree with Commissioner Moore, we got to follow our attorney's advice.
Sure.
And then see where that takes us. But I do want to see if we can't help you get to where you need with some of this delta money that we got between the 8% and 10%?
10.8.
10.8.
Yes,
Mr. Miles, have y'all set up a meeting to have with the clerk?
Yes, sir. I think specifically she asked also for the county attorney's office to attend. So, yeah, we can work to set something up. You know, we've looked at all the other numbers and we've kind of broken out some things we are more inclined to support than others. And that's part of the BPI list. Again, this is about getting feedback from the board on that list. And so that will help us finalize the list between now and the next meeting in July.
Okay. Good.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, Commissioner, I just wanted to mention, while looking over the budget and looking at specific costs associated with accounting and other services, if the board's using 91 or 92%, or whatever the estimates are, whether it's 50 and 50, we should be covering our portion of what the VOCC is utilizing, but making sure it is fair all the way around. Because if you take the accounting and then you see how much we use compared to how much our office is using, we should be covering our costs that we incur. And I believe our clerk has the breakdown of that as well.
I don't understand the question. Commissioner Fitzpatrick, could you please repeat?
I was saying, I was explaining if we're utilizing specific services, whether it's through accounting or whatever services that the services that the board is using, then the clerk's office should be compensated for the services that the board specifically is using.
Yes, ma'am.
And I believe you had a breakdown when I specifically asked, okay, what's the breakdown? How many general ledger transactions were you creating for the board compared to creating for other services? What is the breakdown of how many checks you have to write? And I was getting a breakdown and feedback of everything that you were doing for the VOTC compared to the clerk.
Yes, ma'am.
And the court guys.
Correct. I had emailed the information to you. I don't know if you want me just to confirm that, yes, that was provided. But it was, we're able, with the newer technology, with the newer system, with the financial system, we're able to pull better reports, and we're able to look at the transactions, the types of transactions, and whether it is a board-related financial transaction or if it's a clerk-related financial transaction. So the amount for covering board services cost, we did it as a workload measure, an unweighted workload measure. It's just a 1-for-1, and broke that percentage out as, you know, certain percent for the board work versus the other percent for the clerk's work.
Correct. So I just wanted to make sure that all sides were compensated for the work that you were doing.
Thank you. It is accounted for in the request.
Thank you for your question. All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, please. So as you know, the property appraiser budget was due on June 1st. We just got that. We going through is continuing to evaluate that budget. As you know, we have a new property appraiser. Included in the increase of about 1.2 million is the salary, retirement, and healthcare increases, but we'll come back to you with the remainder of the budget drivers for this particular constitutional. Next, please. Supervisor of Elections has requested $1.2 million for the things you can see on the screen. In addition to that, we're expecting with the new census that there will be some redistricting costs coming up in the future. There are some redistricting costs built into the Supervisor of Elections budget, but at this time we don't know what the redistricting is going to look like, so we're just estimating what those redistricting costs will be. Next, please. If we turn to the Fire MSTU fund, you'll notice that the calls for fire rescue have been expanding rapidly from just under 55,000 in 2009 to over 80,000 today. 70% of those calls are for our ambulance rescue unit. If you'll go to the next slide, please. You'll notice that general fund taxable assessed values increased by 10.8%. The fire MSTU taxable assessed values increased by 11.9%. And so that yields an additional $6.49 million in property tax revenue. The fire department has created this 7-year plan to premium based on the 8% increase in taxable assessed values. We felt that it may be necessary to recommend an increase in the fire MSTU millage. However, we'd like to take some time and look at what is the impact of that increase from 8% to 11.9%, and does that still warrant an increase in the fire MSTU? So if you'll bear with us, we will take a look at the data, crunch some numbers, and come back to you with a recommendation at a later date. Next, please. Sir.
Obviously, that recommendation will have to happen at the July meeting. It can't be extended past that if we want to make a change. But again,
Right.
this data is less than a week old, or it's about a week old. We still got to crunch some numbers and see what it does to, long-term fund balance in the fund for the fire rescue. So.
Okay.
All right, moving on to the building department fund. We have, as you can see, you've seen these figures before. There's really no abatement in the number of new single-family homes that are being built. We're still up around record-setting permit receipts at about 800 to 900 single-family building permit receipts every month. Next, please. And so the building department would, these are the new funding initiatives, the new business plan initiatives requested by the building department. Contractual services for Acela to do some updating, maintenance, and that sort of thing on the Acela software, and then to add some FTEs, some folks around permitting, building inspectors, and then some floodplain technicians. These, of course, will all be paid through fees that are generated by the building department. Next, please. So turning to Public Works, you can see over the past 3 years, Branford and the crews and the Public Works crews have really been knocking it out of the park. If you look at the number of lane miles that have been paved, has increased from 24.5 in 2020 to projecting 34.5 next year. PVAS was at almost 16, and now in 2022 will be almost 24 lane miles paved. Next, please.
Stay on the slide, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
This past week, I was over to Zephyr Hills. They had APS had a really interesting paving project display program on how they took paving itself for repaving a road where they put down the tack simultaneously to putting down the asphalt, which gave it a pure bond all the way through. Even the joints, they had the spray going in to seal it out. It was a really interesting project. The one thing with that apparatus, which is like 20% more effective as far as the bond strength and effectiveness. I think the strength was even like 30%, but the bonding itself was even at 22%. I think it's something we should be taking a look at, and I was asking them to come to the MPO meeting, but they're just going to do public comment, I think. But it's something that I think we should all take a look at. I'll meet with these folks, and maybe we should even take a look as far as working with these guys for the future. I mean, it just seemed like a good future.
Contractor.
They are, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, we can work with them now. They can talk to Public Works about that.
Oh yeah, matter of fact, they actually did a test project on Little Road. They did one side with it, one not, did a test on it, and the results were the cost is about the same, but the performance is so much better.
Yeah, well, we'll see long-term, but yeah, I mean, I think, again, if they're working with Public Works, that's the right place for them to be working.
Yeah, and again, I'm gonna ask them to come before the board on the MPO coming up, but it'll be just a short presentation, and probably won't get back to us, but it's some, your staffs are already aware of, they've already looked at, seen it, so just wanna alert the board.
Great. Thank you. We'll make sure that Public Works is aware of that. Next, please. So this is the operating budget for Public Works. This includes Public Works road maintenance as well as the stormwater. They're requesting an engineer, construction specialist, and then they plan on doing some additional sidewalk construction, ditch cleaning, that kind of thing in the stormwater department. Next, please. If we turn to the capital, these are the projects that are slated for PVAS in 2022 to the tune of about almost $3 million. Next, please. If we look at program maintenance, these are existing roads that are having maintenance on them, about $10.6 million. And you can see each of the roads there from County Line to Little Road and the areas of each of those roads that will be repaved in fiscal 22. Next, please. We have some pathways. You see the 3 pathways there that will be started construction in 22, as well as there have been 4 traffic signals at these intersections that have been approved for installation in 2022. Next, please. Stormwater capital, you can see there are some very specific projects in here. For example, Colonial Manor, Sea Pines, and then there are some overarching projects that will occur all over the county. For example, culvert renewal and replacement, and that will spend about $6 million on those capital projects in the upcoming year. Next, please. So you can see this chart here shows the gray bars are the number of connections to our utility system. The dark, I think that's red at the top, that is the American Water Works Association standard for the number of employees for the number of connections. The yellow line is the actual number that we have in our utility for 2021, or 2021 are actual for 22, those kind of an estimate. These are the business plan initiatives that we've requested for the utility in 22 will allow us to maintain that distance. We won't fall behind. We're not necessarily going to catch up, but we'll be able to maintain that distance with the business plan initiatives that we're adding. All of those business plan initiatives that you'll see on the next slide will be paid for through new growth to the system. Next, please. And so you can see here in the utility, we're looking to add 23 business plan initiatives, 33 FTEs altogether. And those new FTEs are employees that will be plant operators, mechanics, maintenance folks, engineers, that kind of thing.
Mr. Chair, quick question, thanks. This might be a question for Mr. Carvalho, but are we able to cover our costs? He's saying yes. Want to make sure on every new quote hookup. So if XYZ development comes, has 100 homes, the cost of connecting is 100% covered. There's nothing that we're going to take a loss from in any instance.
Trying to unpack that, forgive me for a second. So if you're talking about does development pay for itself, is that?
Yes.
It does not?
No.
What's that?
It does not.
Okay.
Now, you have to include the plant expansion required for the growth, and that is not covered by the water or sewer connection use.
So if I go out and develop a 20-acre parcel with 120 homes, what I'm paying to make that connection today does not cover the county's cost.
Correct. It does not cover the treatment cost. We typically, we put the burden of the pipes, if you will, and the collection on the developer. So they install that infrastructure, which then we take over and maintain, and those costs are recovered through our rates. The cost of capacity charges, impact fees that come in are devoted to treatment. However, those fees do not amply cover what the cost of the plant expansion would be.
Okay. So let me expand upon that a little bit. If you didn't have to use additional funds, or I should say dollars out of your funds, out of your fund, would there be a possibility that you could even possibly lower utility rates because your cost isn't as high, or what you're having to take out of your fund? Could that make up a possible delta?
If we were completely made whole
Yep.
through development, just for the sake of argument, I would say that we are a cost recovery system. That's how our rates are based.
Yep.
Costs are always increasing, so I would say that probably not. It would depend on what costs you're doing in the markets. We are completing the rate study and analysis to include our impact fees and capacity charges. We'll be briefing you on those.
Well, and I say that, and I see Commissioner Mariano, I think his mind is spinning a little bit too. What I don't want to see is obviously a cost of the price of new development to have a negative impact on your funds, that we're going to have to draw out of that fund to cover those extra costs, where if we're able to do that or gain a little bit back, we wouldn't have to continue to do in the future. I mean, I understand over time you're going to have to raise utility rates. It is what it is, but maybe not as drastic of increases. No, because I always want, and I say this because we still remember, and we need to think about the people that are here and they've been here. It should never have a negative impact, and it should not cost them more money for something new to come. I don't think you disagree, but
I understand, yes.
Yeah. So I always want to make sure, listen, if I'm going to go do a new development tomorrow, I decide Mike Moore decides he's going to go build something and you need to make a connection, the county should not be underwater because of that.
Yeah.
And I'm done.
So, Commissioner, I think the challenge is a lot of the planned expansion that we need to do and it's on the books today is already baked in based on growth that's already happened, to include growth that's coming, right?
I'm talking about future now. The past is the past. I'm talking about the future.
But the planned expansions also are dealing with current growth and growth that has
No, I
happened.
understand that.
And so we already have a negative delta from a funding, from a plant capacity standpoint, because in general, and because they're still doing the rate sufficiency analysis, this is an estimate, you probably have to increase your connection charges at least 3 times to cover that plant expansion cost, if not more. And so that's baked in. If you don't do that, so today, when somebody pays a connection fee, they are not covering their costs. They're covering maybe a third of their plant expansion costs. So if you said, okay, we don't want to do that anymore, then we are probably somewhere between 12 and 24 months of a building moratorium because we can't expand our plants. And again, I could be off a little bit because we're still running some numbers on that. So if you can't expand your plants, you can't make new connections, which means you will have basin after basin go down to building moratorium, except where we're not having growth. So it's yes, there is significant cost being borne by the ratepayer for plant expansions that are due mainly to growth. But they are also, most of them are part of the growth that led up to that, too. So, and they didn't pay the impact fees that they may have necessarily needed to pay to deal with their growth either. So you'd have to go back and say, okay, when did this start and how do you recover that cost? Because it's not just the next one, there's also growth already baked into the system.
And there were people that never paid an impact fee.
Right.
Sure, of course.
Ever.
So we're still working through the rate sufficiency analysis. They briefed me last night. They're still working on that. It will be, they'll be ready to start sitting down with y'all over the next few weeks before they bring the rate resolution to the board. I will say, even with all that, we are going to be probably one of the lowest utility rates in the region.
Good.
And so even with what they think is the right number, which is probably about what you've seen over the last 4 years anyway, to include some changes to how we bill reclaim.
Yeah, no, and I
That's part
appreciate,
of that.
again, I appreciate, it was, you know, I don't want to say this is my mindset, but I think about this sometimes, it's like, listen, equate it to buying a car, for example, you know? If I'm somebody that wants to buy a Mercedes, I'm gonna pay more, right? And then I'm gonna pay for a Yugo. It's a big difference between those two, right? Pasco County is on its way to being a Mercedes. You may have to pay a little bit more to get in the game, but the people that were already in the game shouldn't have to pay more because they were already in the game.
What if you never paid anything?
Then that's something you gotta figure out. I'm not in that game.
It gets complicated.
That's what our staff's supposed to be doing for us.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
You know, Commissioner Moore, you bring up a good point, because we were talking the other day about new projects coming in, what the effects would be, et cetera. And I think it's a real good point. The reason we pushed the impact fees many years ago was to get new growth to pay for itself. And I'm sure Commissioner Stark's going to talk about this in a minute, and the committee reports when it comes, because the Lindrick system that we just got a great.
Don't stall, don't take my
Yeah,
thunder.
But so all the other
Yeah, I'll leave that one too.
FGAs, all the other FGAs we're going to want to take over time,
Yeah.
we're looking at the increase, how it's going to affect all the other people.
Right.
Now, those people were here, set up, through no fault of their own.
Yep.
They should be included to the regular rates. But everything new coming in, I think we need to go take a look at that, because if it's going to keep us from taking care of the people that are already here,
Yep.
because we can't afford it because the new growth's coming, I think that people would say, let the growth pay for itself, at least as it gets started. And what could happen is if we have that growth that still comes, and I think part of the reason our rates are so competitive, if you compare everyone else, is because we are so unincorporated that we can put a better system together over a longer time. And we do get the growth come in, it should get better. But if we don't collect the money we need up front, we're gonna keep continually lag behind instead of getting more efficient down the road. So even these people we charge up front are gonna benefit later. And I'll even compare it to a lady who was coming from Hillsborough, and we had the school impact thing many years ago. She says, look, I liked coming to Pasco County because you guys were planning for the future. I didn't mind paying those extra fees because I knew you'd have the capacity to go service my children when they're gonna go to school. And I think utilities is about the same type of thing. Let's take a close look at that. Thank you.
Yeah. I want to reiterate something. I think, Mr. Biles, a little while ago, you made reference to something that there was a hypothetical thing that can happen, so I don't want it.
Correct.
Yeah, don't get the wrong idea from what the county administrator said a second ago about some type of moratorium or something. That's not the case,
Well,
but you were giving a hypothetical
That is
of what
correct.
something possibly could happen, whether it be in any county or somewhere in the nation. So
Well,
I
you
just
see
want to
it
make
in
sure.
Southern Hillsborough County.
If you don't have the funds to expand your
It was
plans,
the- yeah, it was
that's
'cause
where
of
you end
funding
up.
he's talking about.
And so.
We
yeah,
have funding.
We're looking at that.
Yeah.
You know, that's part of the rate sufficiency analysis.
Yeah.
I will say, I think what you'll see is probably something very similar to what you saw over the last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was saying, it's hypothetical what you said. We have.
Yeah, no,
There's no shortage.
The recommended plan is gonna take care of that where that is not an issue.
Right.
You know, we are finalizing that. You will get that soon, but it will look a lot like what you've seen over the last 4 years.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? Okay,
Go ahead.
Mr. Stark.
I just want to say, though, too, if you look at Pasco County historically, we weren't charging fees. It took a long time before we had that stormwater utility fee and others, and that, you know, that's shame on us, really, that we weren't collecting that a long time ago. I know when I sat on the Swift Flood Board for 6 years, and I would drive down to my budget meetings for my PA Basin Board with a $25 and then $50 million budget that we could spend on stormwater and utility projects. Pasco County couldn't participate because we didn't have the matching funds. So we kind of did that to ourselves also, that we weren't collecting that money way back.
Not we, they.
Yeah, it was long before I was sitting on here. But maybe Jack was here. But he was only one of 5. But, you know, we didn't have that mindset to, we never went after grants. We didn't charge a lot of fees.
Right.
It was very cheap to live here. You didn't get a whole lot for it, but you could live here cheap. So Good discussion.
But, you know, just, Commissioner, one final thing is, keep in mind, most of the new growth is connected to our reclaim system. Right now, we're delivering about 23 million gallons a day of reclaim, which is 23 million gallons a day we're not buying from Tampa Bay Water, which means the ratepayers are saving money because of the reclaim system, which is mostly going into new, you know, basically all new growth is connected.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's where most of that is. And so there is a balance
good,
there, and so there is some savings there. You know, that's a tremendous amount of water we are not pulling out of the aquifer.
You're right.
You
The
know,
state's
so there
allowing
is
them to do
some
more now.
pros with that.
And we
So-
could have had 25 million more dollars that we didn't have to pay if things had worked out the way we had hoped. Or was it, would have been half of 25 million, 12.5 million. That was an unfortunate event for Pasco County.
Mr. Mariano?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. You know, I want to make two points coming up, and I'll talk reclaim water in a second, but on redevelopment issues, I'll give you an example. On Little Road, we had my insurance company, not my insurance company, the company I'm agent for, bought a home and then brought a commercial facility in. The use of the commercial facility should be a lot less than residential use. The impact of that, because of using a larger pipe to a smaller pipe, was substantial in the effect, which also affects our total calculation. So the data they were using, I think, was back from 1950s data. That finally, with the engineer, they finally got it to a better size than what was first proposed. But I think we need to go dig into that and go take a look at that, because if we're going to redevelop along 19, I want the growth to pay for itself. At the same time, I don't want to be overcharged or even overuse our capacity that we don't need to have. And one thing with reclaimed water, I've talked to several different golf courses all around. I've brought this up before, but I'm going to tell you, when you have a community that's got a golf course in place, that's functional, that's viable, et cetera, it helps those property values, which helps the tax base.
Sure.
When you all of a sudden take the cost and quadruple them, it affects their budget tremendously. And we get nice communities like Heritage Pines, Seven Springs, et cetera, that used to get it real cheap, now they don't. And if we're not going to let them use the reclaimed water, maybe we need to work with Swiftmont to get them the pumping permits established where they can just go pump more water. I think we're better off if they use the regular water, reclaimed, but I think we need to go look at what these golf course communities, because it's a good part of our economic base when people can play golf. I mean, I think it goes kind of like beaches, fishing, then golf courses. And we got some great golf courses, Plantation Palms, and Commissioner Moore, I'll just give you accolades as far as how you worked with the new owner that came in and worked with the residents to make sure how important that golf course was to them. So I think we need to go take a look at those reclaimed water rates as well. Let's go look to what we promised those people when they first signed up for the reclaimed water. And then should we go on to those contracts that were back then with moderate price increases instead of the dramatic ones they faced?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Let's go back.
Hey, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Mike, there's 2 more slides. Next, please. And so, as we've just been talking, the water wastewater utility is a capital-intensive program, and these are the kind of the capital projects that we're looking forward to in the upcoming years. Next, please. And then the final fund we want to talk about is the solid waste fund. Solid waste, the amount of trash we generated actually increased during the pandemic with everyone getting box after box of stuff from Amazon. And so their initiatives, they'd like to add 3 new employees, a plant mechanic, solid waste attendant, and an equipment operator. Next, please. And then next steps, we're expecting the final taxable assessed values on July 1st, and we'll adjust the budget according to what happens to the taxable assessed values. They could go up, they could go down. We don't know at this point. And then at July 6th, we'll meet again to set the trim, which is the truth and millage. And at that point, we will set millage rate for the general operating millage as well as the fire MSTU, that we can then advertise that millage rate to the residents. They will receive that advertisement in August and September, telling them what the millage rate, the maximum the millage rate will be. So when we set the millage rate in July, that millage rate can go down, but it can't go up during the final hearings. And it will also communicate to the residents when the final hearings are so that they can come in and give us their feedback on the budget. And with that, that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any further questions you might have.
Ms.
Yes,
Carter?
ma'am.
So is the land, which one of these is waste to energy?
Solid Waste Fund.
Where is it? Is that the,
It's the next to the last.
I'm sorry, I'm following you.
Go up one more.
If you go one more, there you go.
There you go.
Oh, I see, 110 million?
Yeah.
So,
110,000.
are you saying that's built into our budget?
Yes, that's built in the upcoming budget for the solid waste.
Wait, is that 110,000?
110,000.
Wait, I thought we had to build a new
That
one.
is not constructing the new waste energy
No.
plant. No, that's a BPI for solid waste as part of the waste energy program. That's what that is.
So where
I
are we
believe
getting the
those are
money to build
advanced
the
smoke
new?
detectors is what
That's
those
your
are. It's
solid
an
waste
insurance deal.
Yeah, your solid waste assessment. You know, you adopted a plan a few years back to
Cover,
increase
we
so
got
much
that.
each year to build the cash up, to be able to expand and build the fourth burner. We're still
Okay.
in that program.
Okay.
And we're still moving down the track to build and have that.
So we're squirreling money away for that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. I
And we're
just was
about to
worried about
spend a
that
lot
one.
of that over the next couple of years.
All right. Any other questions? Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Good report.
Thank you.
That ends all the regular items. We'll go to old business. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let me see if I can get through this here. Last week, we had the honor of Governor DeSantis coming to Pasco County to Zephyr Hills to sign the budget. What a awesome honor for him to come to Pasco County to sign that budget. It was great. I brought one of my daughters with me. Actually, Commissioner, you had one of your daughters there too. She just happened to be standing up there with the governor.
Yeah, she got a pen too.
Yeah. But thank you, Governor DeSantis. We really appreciate you coming to Pasco County for all the great things you've done, as well as our, obviously, President Wilton Simpson, Senator Burgess, Senator Hooper, Representative Mag, Representative Mariano, and Representative Zika. They all did great work this session, and we're very appreciative. And I'm not going to steal anybody's thunder, because I know a couple of you, I think, want to talk about some of the projects you work with the legislators on, so I'll leave it at that. But again, thank you, Governor DeSantis. We really appreciate you being here in Pasco County. Exciting things happened last week when it came to tourism. From our DMO, the Tampa Bay Pro Combine, presented by Florida Sports Coast, was held. I had the honor, and it was really a fun time of doing the ceremonial jump ball before the first game at Wiregrass Ranch Sports Camp of Pasco County. Hundreds, of room nights here in Pasco County. That's what tourism's all about. That's what our DMOs, why they're doing such great things, is bring people to Pasco County to eat in our restaurants, shop at our local mom and pops, and buy their gas here in Pasco County, and we really appreciate all the exposure. And it wasn't just from people from Florida. These are future NBA stars that came from all over the country and actually all over the world. There were international players that came as well. I look forward to that tournament, or I shouldn't say to that event being built upon. I think we're going to meet with them in the next couple of weeks to help make it even bigger and better. But scouts, coaches from all over the place. It was great. Real quick, Port Rich's CRA update. I know everybody's probably paying very close attention to this. They have an update tonight at their meeting on their CRA boundaries. We had talked about this last in February, or I think in March as well. We talked about it in February. They discussed it in March. I'm not going to go over in too much detail, but I'll just give you an example of why it's so important to carve out some of those areas. Recently, I was doing some due diligence and saw that one of those homes in one of the neighborhoods we talked about that should be pulled out is actually listed on the market for $1.3 million and sale pending now. Obviously we don't know what that price was. It could have been above or below, but that's definitely not a blighted neighborhood by any means. So that's just a perfect example. So I'm confident that Port Richey is going to move forward with that. I have all the confidence in the world that they'll be doing the right thing and pull that area and hopefully some more areas out of that CRA moving forward. I think they can actually pull that off maybe tonight. The last thing, and this is very important, and some of you may have received the same email, but I did want to take a moment and read it because I know we have some people from Fire Rescue here, and I think the chief's back there himself today. But I received a very, very nice email from a constituent complimenting Pasco County Fire Rescue. So I did want to read that to everybody. It says, "Dear Commissioner Moore, my name is Timothy Reed. I am a two-time Purple Hearts recipient in the United States and a United States Marine veteran. My wife, my service dog Shadow, and I just moved into the Quail Hollow Pines neighborhood back in September of 2020. We have our very first home in this beautiful neighborhood surrounded by lovely neighbors and nature. On Monday, May 10th, 2021, an unfortunate event occurred where a brush fire blazed up behind our backyard coming from the neighbor. The fire quickly engulfed the pine tree, spreading so fast toward our home and the surrounding homes. We were in a panic. My wife was so frantic seeing our whole yard caught on fire in an instant, so we quickly and so fast, it started fanning up because of the heavy winds and they felt helpless. Pasco County Fire Rescue 13 showed up within minutes. We heard the fire siren, we knew we were safe. Captain David Agrafalo calmly walked up in full gear and hoses, reassuring us we got this. At that moment, we knew we were in good hands. He said, more PCFR 13 firefighters calmly charged in, setting the water hoses up and running towards the fire, taming the angry inferno down. Pasco County Fire Rescue Departments, he said departments, but I didn't think he meant stations, that's okay. 26, 38, 27, 13, 3, 6, and 4 were all present in the Florida sweltering heat, working diligently, calm and collected, and even went as far as making sure our fruit trees didn't become a casualty of the fire. These brave men and women did not hesitate 1 second to get the job done. Their heroism and professionalism saved our home and our neighbors' homes without anyone injured. We want you to know that we owe you and your brave firemen, women, an outstanding debt of gratitude. These men and women are the heart and soul of this community. We want to express our thanks and respect to you and your firemen and firewomen. Keep up the incredible work. We are also here to support you. We're one fantastic community. Please let our firemen and firewomen know how much we appreciate all of you. Sincerely, Tim and Shada. So congratulations, and I think it's I love when we get those letters and kudos. Yeah, you can give a round of applause. I shared that with Chief Cass, and I think he already got the word out and shared it amongst some of his captains and team members. But again, thank you all for everything, and I'm glad those residents and citizens are safe. So thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you. All right, Ms.
I'll
Starkey,
try and do
can
this
you
in 4
finish?
minutes. First, driving here and driving around the county, I'm reminded about the Kogan grass that's continuing to spread. And as I passed CPEB, the land, some of the land that I think we're going to be voting on, I noticed some of the land is just covered in Kogan grass. And I wondered if we have restrictions so that when land is cleared that has an invasive plant on it, they don't take it and use it as fill somewhere else. That's actually how it got into my neighborhood in Aristida. Our development partner brought it in and built the swales that were required in the back, and so now we have a number of homes that have Kogan grass in it, and it's really difficult to get rid of. So I do think we need some kind of regulations so that you don't make the problem worse by bringing that into your neighborhood. And I think what they do is they pile it up and then they burn it. But I'm not sure, but we need to have a regulation that you can't take that and put it on someone else's property. I have some photos I wanted them to load up. I was recently in Mississippi. Okay, this one, I was in Spokane this last week. My son-in-law took command of refueling squadrons. It was very cool. And then the other photos are from a real estate project I went to see 2 weeks ago in Mississippi. Well, I didn't mean to show that house. That's a nice tree. If you go back to the sidewalk, you'll see and there should be like 8 pictures. You should see this is Mississippi, Ocean Springs, what communities are doing so they don't tear out their trees, but they still have functioning sidewalks, is they do the sidewalks in these squares where they have these trees with tree roots. So rather than tear out the tree, which I think I hate seeing, they do the sidewalks like this. And it's interesting that in 2 places I've seen where they're doing this, and I think we should look at repairing sidewalks differently than ripping out the trees. I had a question on the landscaping on Ridge Road. I know that when we widened Ridge Road, we put aside $75,000 for a landscaping plan and funds, and I was told that it was sitting somewhere waiting for the litigation to finish, and so I just want to know when we'll see that really nice landscaping along Ridge Road. Also, 52 in the Suncoast, still waiting, I guess that maybe that'll be an MPO question, but there's no landscaping on the Suncoast yet. We talked to the Turnpike people a long time ago. We really want to see that landscaping come. Yeah, I want to thank our legislators. I'm very happy that AmSkills received $450,000, and I'd gone up to talk to DEO and Enterprise Florida and everybody about what we're doing, and they're all very excited about it. So it might have been a little misleading because the way we were funded was in two different pots. So we had a request in for $550, and it was divided from 100 and 450, and we did get the 450, and that's going towards renovations of the building. Right now, the Tampa Bay TBBJ, Tampa Bay Business Journal, is doing a meeting, or I don't know what it's called. They're having a panel right now on the state of manufacturing. I just heard that AmSkills was our plan to taking training to the community is a brilliant strategy. So we're getting a shout out right now online with the Tampa Bay Business Journal. And Lindrick, $3.8 million. Very exciting to help improve the water quality and the water delivery and the whole aging sewer system over there. This is going to go a long way to helping the county deal with the problems as they acquire Lindrick. So we're very grateful to the legislature, and especially a shout out to my friend who is the incoming state Senate president, because he put the placeholder in that allowed us to stay alive. So I'm very thankful to him. On short-term rentals, I think that's a workshop that we need. You know, we need to discuss with our citizens and with our attorneys and with everybody what it means if we stay or if we get rid of our ordinance. And because I know the community's divided. My Gulf Harbors neighborhood is divided. We'll never get consensus, I think, but I think we have to have a good talk about what it means if we get rid of our ordinance, and which in my opinion isn't working. And lastly, on the planning side, when I was in Spokane visiting again my son-in-law's command ceremony, it's their second time being stationed there at Fairchild, but they live in Spokane. It's a really interesting planning exercise to drive around this beautiful community called, well, I'm not sure what the whole name of it is, but where my daughter lives. Were you stationed at Fairchild? No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
I have one at Fairchild.
All right. You could be driving along, and it's beautiful homes, and you saw one with the tree, and that's one of the little homes. And then, boom, it's a bakery or an ice cream shop, and then 2 houses down on the same street, it's a quadruplex, and then there's $10 million homes, and then there's a duplex, and it's just beautiful. It's just all mixed in and woven, and the schools are all in, you know, it's just really woven with a lot of uses within a community. And, you know, with our new stuff, we seem to compartmentalize everything, and I just really found that to be just you know, if I lived in Spokane, I would love to live there. You can just walk to your bakery and have your morning coffee, and I just wanted to say it is possible to live in a wonderful place that has a bunch of different types of people living in there, and workforce housing and affordable housing woven in to a community in a really smart way. And yes, all the roads are on a grid, even though it's going up a mountainside, so pretty cool. That's it for me.
Okay. With that, it's a little bit after 12. We're going to break for lunch, and then we'll come back at 1:30 to continue our meeting.
Pasco County waterways and wildlife depend on you to keep them healthy. Excess fertilizer, grass clippings, trash, oils, and pet waste wash into gutters and storm drains when it rains. Stormwater carries these pollutants directly into our lakes and rivers, creating an unhealthy environment for fish, waterfowl, and other aquatic animals. Storm drains are meant for clean rainwater. Most other discharges are illegal. If you suspect an illicit discharge, please contact Pasco